Using gambits is one of the quickest ways to win games. You can get a great attacking position for a small material investment in the early moves. In this video, I'll show you the strongest gambits for quickly ending your games. The Danish Gambit. It starts with e4, d5, then d4, e takes d4, and white gives away a pawn with c3, and after d takes c3, white even gives a second one with bishop c4. After c takes b2 and bishop takes b2, take a look at this position. When there are no pawns in the way of the diagonals of the two bishops, they can move as effectively as possible. Meanwhile, black hasn't brought a single piece out. Considering these factors, there can be several challenges for black early on, and he may occasionally not even pass through the opening. If you like bishops, this is the opening for you. The Smithmore Gambit. If you want to play the white side of the Sicilian well, you probably need to know a lot of theory. How about easing your task on move 2? d4 by white. After c takes d4, white introduces the Smithmore Gambit with c3. Black can accept the offer with d takes c3. After knight takes c3, he needs to know what he is doing. Here is how I lost one of my early games in this line. In this position, I played d takes e5, which is a big blunder. The game tragically ended after bishop takes f7 check, king takes f7 and queen takes d8. Losing like that was incredibly embarrassing. At least, after that, I never underestimated this opening again. The Goring Gambit. It starts with the Scotch Defense. Instead of recapturing the pawn, white initiates the Goring Gambit with c3. After d takes c3, white can choose the number of pawns he wants to give. With knight takes c3, we reach a position very similar to the Smithmore Gambit. The major difference is the pawn on c7, which is on e7 in the Smithmore. White can offer a second pawn with bishop c4, and after c takes b2 and bishop takes b2, the position is very close to the Danish Gambit, the only difference being that each side has a knight out. The Goring Gambit has two main versions. You can choose one based on your preferences. If you want to play a tactical game, the Petrov Defense can be a highly deceptive opening to encounter. After knight takes e5 and d6, instead of moving back, the knight passes away in a hero's manner with knight takes f7 and king captures f7. White has got only one pawn for the sacrifice knight. He pinned his hopes on the black king's loss of the ability to castle. The game might continue bishop c4 check, king e8, castles, and knight takes e4. The black monarch is kept in the center of the board, and the open E line will serve as a base for the incoming attack. With e4, e5, knight to f3 and knight c6, d4 brings us to the Scotch Game. White has an alternative to the traditional capture on d4. He can play bishop c4, emphasizing development. Black can keep an extra pawn with bishop c5, but after c3, if he is too greedy, he will be crushed badly. D takes c3, for example, leads to bishop takes f7 check, sacrificing the bishop, king takes f7 and queen d5 check, gaining the bishop back. The black king is retained in the center for the loss of just one pawn, and white's development advantage suggests that an entertaining attacking game is about to begin. If you have enjoyed the video so far, I encourage you to subscribe so that you will be notified of the upcoming videos on this channel. The last two openings are from black's perspective. The Schliemann Gambit. It starts with the Spanish opening or Ruy Lopez. White players playing this way are accustomed to a quiet game where slow maneuvers will prevail. But with the move f5, known as the Schliemann Gambit, the game will be much more tactical than usual. It's not really a pawn sacrifice. After e takes f5, e4 is already equal at best for white, according to theory. Knight c3 is the only move considered challenging in practice. And after f takes e4, knight captures e4 and d5, the game will be extremely sharp. The total opposite of what white expects when playing the Spanish. The number one on the list is the Bocek Gambit. It starts with d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5 and b5, challenging white's center immediately. It's possibly the most professional gambit of our list. It's used by many grandmasters. Let's see how the game looks like when white fully accepts the gambit. White takes on b5, then on a6. After bishop takes a6, the main line goes like this. The white king would have to castle manually to stay safe. It could be achieved with the maneuver g3 and king g2, followed by rook e1. Contrarily to almost all the gambits we've seen so far, black would not attack immediately. After finishing his development, he would use the open a and b lines for his heavy pieces, combined with the powerful g7 bishop to put pressure on white's queenside. That's all for now. Tell me in the comments which opening you prefer. I will maybe make a future video on it.